Hi there. In the following video I'm going to show you how to answer the Unit 3 Practice Paper 2 AQA Higher Paper. Do remember for this paper you have an hour and 30 minutes, you've got a calculator to use, and there's a formula booklet at the start of the paper which I'll refer you back to as we go through this and where needed. Let's start off straight away. Question 1. The diagram shows a regular pentagon. That means that the shape has 5 sides and each of the sides of the shape are exactly the same. That's what the word regular means. Each of the straight sides of the polygon are the same. The pentagon is divided into 5 congruent triangles. Now congruent in maths means the same. Given that each of these triangles are exactly the same, this point here must be the center point. Otherwise, if it was over here, the triangles would be different. For them to all be the same, this must be the center point. It says work out the value of x. Now, we know that angles around a point add to 360, and each of these, this angle here, and this one, and this one, and this are all x, and there are 5 of them. So to get one of them, you simply do 360 divided by 5, and you get 72 degrees. To work out the value of y, well, I'm just going to take one of the triangles out now. I'll just redraw one of the triangles here. We know now that that is 72 degrees. Given that this point is the middle of the pentagon, I know that these two sides, to reach out to the sides of the regular pentagon, these two sides must be the same as each other here, which tells me that that angle and that angle must be the same, i.e. we have an isosceles triangle. So to get y, what you have to do 180, the degrees in a triangle, subtract the 72 you know, and you get 108, and then you do 108 divided by 2 to get one of the y's, and you get 54 degrees. Hence the answer to question 1. Question 2. The diagram shows a triangle and the perimeter of this triangle is 27 centimeters. Now remember, the perimeter is the distance around the outside of the shape, and the measurement is going to be in millimeters. We know that the distances of this triangle are y centimeters, y plus 4 centimeters, and 2y minus 1 centimeters. And in total, these add up to the 27. So we must set up and write an equation and then go ahead and solve it to get y. So we know that the sum of the distances round this triangle is 27, i.e. y, this one, plus y plus 4, this one, plus 2y minus 1, that one, must add up to 27. And there's our initial equation. We should obviously collect like terms and tidy up a bit. We've got 1y plus another y is 2y, plus another 2y is 4y. And then we've got no number here. We've got 4 plus minus 1. 4 plus minus 1 is the same as 4 minus 1, which is 3. So this adds up to 4y plus 3 is equal to 27. Okay, we've set up our equation in simplified form. We now go ahead and solve it. To solve it, we subtract 3 from both sides to get rid of that 3. So we have 4y equals 24. And then to make y the subject of the formula and solve for y, we divide both sides by 4 and we get y must equal 6. So the answer is y equals 6 centimeters. At that point, I would like you to check your working. Let's just go back and see if that y6 worked. If that's 6, this would be 10, and this would be 2 times 6, which is 12, take away 1, which is 11. Do these add up to 27? Well, 6 add 10 is 16, add 11 is 27. So I know I've checked I've got the right answer. Question 3. This is a money question. George's car uses 1 gallon of petrol for every 40 miles. So 1 gallon for every 40 miles. He goes on a 320-mile journey and petrol costs 130 pence per litre. How much does the petrol cost for the journey? And they want the answer in pounds. Okay, there is one fact you need to know for this question, and that is that 1 gallon is approximately equal to 4.5 litres. Okay, we're going to need that fact in this question. If you had forgotten that fact or didn't know it, you could still get about 3 of the 4 marks if you just had a guess at what that number should be. So, he goes on a 320-mile journey, and for every 40 miles he uses 1 gallon. So the number of gallons he uses must be 320 divided by 40, which is 8 gallons. Now we know the cost per litre, so we have to convert gallons to litres. If 1 gallon is 4.5 litres, 8 gallons must be 8 times 4.5. Okay, so the number of litres must be equal to 8 multiplied by 4.5, which is 36 litres. Okay, and we know that petrol costs 130 pence per litre, which is £1.30 per litre. So the cost must be the number of litres, which is 36, times £1.30, and you get, if you do this, 46.8. Do remember, this is a money question. You can't leave your answer like that. You must write £46.80 with a pound sign and a 0 at the end. So the answer is £46.80. 4. Katie is tiling her bathroom wall and she runs out of tiles. Here's her wall, here's what she's tiled, here's what's left over. She goes to the shop to buy the exact number of tiles she needs. She uses this special offer. The question asks, how much does she pay for the tiles? Okay, now the key point here is that she needs exactly the number to make up the wall, no more or no less. Okay, well let's work out how many she needs. So how many tiles needed? Well, you can do this by simply counting, to be honest. You know she needs 3 here, for these 3, and she needs 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 layers of 4, so she needs 3 plus 4 times 6, so she needs in total 27 tiles. Okay, so we know how many tiles needed, a nice easy mark there. Now we need to work out how much that costs. Normally, each tile costs £8, so it would be 8 times 27. But that's not the offer on today. You get 15% discount, and for every 5 you buy, you get 1 free. So, if we bought 5, we would get 1 free. So we would have bought 6. We buy another 5, we would get 1 free. So we would have bought 12. We buy another 5, we get 1 free, and we would have got 18. We buy another 5, we get 1 free, so we would have bought 24. Now, I can't do the same offer for the last set because I've got to buy 5 to get 1 free. I'd get another 6, which would be 20, which would be 30, which would be too much. So how much does this cost? Well, we only having to buy 5, so it would be 5 times £8 for each tile, and we've done it 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So we've done it 4 times, which would give us a total of £160. Now, don't forget, we've still got to buy the remaining 3 tiles left over, so we've got to buy 3 tiles at their full price of £8, which would be another £24 on top. So if we add that together, we would get £184. However, today there's a special 15% discount off, so you get another discount at the end total. So this is our total amount. If we want to work out our discounted price, there are 2 ways of doing it. I'll do a quick way here and a longer way here. You could multiply by the decimal multiplier 0.85 times 184, which would give you £156.40. A longer way of doing it is to work out 10% of 184, which is £18.40, and then 5% must be half of that again, which would be £9.20. So the total discount would be £27.60, and then if you did 184, take away the £27.60, you would get the same answer of £156.40. I would recommend using a decimal multiplier. To work out 15% reduction, you multiply by 1 minus 0.15, which is 0.85. Just to make that clear where I got that from, that is 1 minus 0.15. Question 5. The shape PQRS is drawn on a centimetre grid. Enlarge PQRS by a scale factor of 3. So key points here are the scale factor of 3, using the point marked A as the centre of enlargement. So A is the key point, is the centre of enlargement, and the scale factor is 3. That means we're going to increase this shape by a factor of 3. We're going to multiply each of the sides by 3, and it's all going to be done through this centre of enlargement. A couple of ways of doing it. I think always the easiest is just counting. P is 1 across and 1 up from here. So P dash will be 3 across and 3 up. This will be our new P. We're going to call it P dash. Now you could do that with each corner. You could go, that's 1 across, Q is 1 across and 3 up. So this would be 3 across and 3, 6, 9 up. So that would be my new Q. Okay. S is 1, 2, 3, 4 across and 1 up. So it would be 4, 8, 12 across and 3 up would be here. And then R would be 4 across and 2 up. So it would be 4, 8, 12 across, and it's 2 up, so it would be 6 up here. It would be R dash would be here. And then you just draw in your sides. And it should look something like that. Okay, that's one way of doing it. I'm just going to take these away for now. Probably an easier way in my eye is just to do like we did before. Do P. P is 1 away from A and 1 up, so it's going to be 3 away and 3 up. Now, from this point, you could draw in the shape. Each of the sides is going to get multiplied by 3. S was 3 away from P, so this is going to be 9 away. So 3, 6, 9 away. This was 2 up, so this distance is going to be 2, 4, 6. And this was 1 up, so it's going to be a distance of 3. And again, you can draw in your shape then. Your shape would simply look something like that. Some people draw ray lines from the point A to the other point just to help guide them. It's not required really, it's not always needed, but sometimes these just help to point you in the right direction here. Going through each corner, it looks like our shape is in the right place. So there we go. Question 5 is done for us, nice and easy. Question 6. The diagram shows a semicircle radius R and a rectangle. The perimeters are equal. Work out R. Okay, at first it might look quite confusing. It's not really. Let's just think of about what perimeter means. The perimeter of the semicircle is this distance here, which is half the circumference of a whole circle, and plus 2 lots of the radius. 1 lot of the radius and 2 lots of the radius there. And the perimeter of a rectangle is easy. Well, it's 2 lots of the width there plus 2 lots of the height there. Okay, so we're going to write expressions for the circumference of the semicircle and the circumference and the perimeter of the semicircle and the perimeter of the rectangle. And we're going to make them equal and then try and work out R. Now remember that the circumference of a whole circle is given by the formula 2 pi r. 2 times pi times the radius. Okay, you need to know that formula. So the distance of half a circle is a half of this which is just pi times the radius. Okay, so we can use that knowledge to work out the perimeters of each. The perimeter of the semicircle, well, it's this distance here, which is half the circumference of the whole circle, which we said was pi r. So it's pi r plus 2 lots of the radius, plus 2 lots of the radius. There? Okay, what's the perimeter of the rectangle? Well, it's 2 lots of r, that r plus that r, which is 2r, plus 3 plus 3, which is 6. And you know the perimeters are equal. So you know this thing here must equal that thing, i.e. pi times r plus 2r, this perimeter, must equal 2r plus 6. And now we have to solve for r. Well, if I subtracted 2r off both sides, if I subtracted 2r from here and 2r from here, that 2r would disappear, that 2r would disappear, and I would just get pi r is equal to 6. So what's the value of r? Well, to get that, I divide both sides by pi, so r must be 6 divided by pi, and you can leave your answer like that. If you actually want to work it out, 6 divided by it's 1, if you wanted to work it out exactly to decimal figures, it's 1.91. Okay, if you wanted to work that out to 2 decimal places, and it would be in centimeters, so don't forget your unit. Again, if you left your answer like this, make sure you write your unit in. Question 7. The screen size of a television is the length to the nearest inch of the diagonal of the screen, so that length there. A television is a rectangle 45 inches across, 26 inches high. Work out the screen size of this television. So you might look at that first and not have an idea, but really just imagine that this is just a triangle. Really what you're dealing with here is this triangle, and it's a right angle triangle, right? So it's a triangle with 45 inches on the base and 26 inches high, and you're trying to work out the diagonal, or what we call the hypotenuse. So this is just an application of Pythagoras' theorem. Pythagoras' theorem tells us that the hypotenuse squared, I'm going to call that h squared, is equal to the squares of the other two sides added together. So 26 squared plus 45 squared. So if we actually want to work out h, we then have to square root this answer. So in our calculator, we work out 26 squared, which is 676, and we add together 45 squared, which is 2025, but then we have to square root it, because h squared is the sum of those two, so h is the square root of that. And you get the answer 51.97. Now, it did say that the screen size must be measured to the nearest inch. Well, the nearest inch to 51.97 is simply 52 inches. So the screen size is 52 inches. Okay, the recommended distance between the viewer and the television is called the ideal distance. The ideal viewing distance to the screen size is 3:1. So let's just say what this said. This says that if we've got a screen size of say 1, then the viewing distance will be 3. Okay, Ruba buys a 60-inch television. So the sofa is 4.4 meters away from the television. Is the sofa at the ideal viewing distance? So 60 inches. So let's work. 60 inches is the screen size. So let's work out the viewing distance. The viewing distance must be for every 1 inch of the screen size, there's 3 inches of viewing distance. So it must be 60 times 3, which is 180 inches. So 180 inches is the ideal viewing distance. Now, you need to know a fact here that approximately an inch is approximately 2.5 centimeters. You need that piece of information. So let's check if 4.4 meters is the ideal viewing. So let's do a calculation with the 4.4 meters. 4.4 meters is 440 centimeters, and to work out how many inches that is, you divide by 2.5. So you divide this by 2.5 and you get how many inches that is. 440 divided by 2.5. You get 176 inches. So the sofa is 176 inches from the TV, and the ideal viewing distance is 180. So the answer to this, is the sofa the ideal viewing distance? No, it is 4 inches too close. Question 8. Jordan's using trial and improvement to find the solution to this equation. Just in case it's not clear on the screen, this is the equation: x cubed minus 5x is equal to 30. And they want us to use trial and improvement to solve this. They told us that when we put x in, we get 12. And so it's not 30, it's too small. Before you move to decimal guesses, you must find a whole number that gives a bigger answer than 30. So let's try 4. Let's work out 4 cubed on our calculator minus 5 times 4. So 4 cubed is 64, minus 5 times 4 is 20, so you get 44. And this is too big. Only now, when you've got one too small, one too big, can you go to decimals. So let's go halfway in between. Let's try 3.5. So on your calculator, work out 3.5 cubed minus 5 times 3.5 and see what you get. You get the answer 25 point something. Okay, and that's too small. So let's try 3.6. 3.6 cubed minus 5 times 3.6. Type that in our calculator. Get 28. 28.6. Again, too small. So obvious next try is 3.7. 3.7 cubed minus 5 times 3.7. Work that out on your calculator. 32. And that's too big. Now, at this point, to check whether it's, you want your answer to 1 dp, remember, to check whether it's 3.6 or 3.7, you have to check halfway in between 3.65. So you work out 3.65 cubed minus 5 times 3.65. And you get 30.3, which again is too big, just slightly too big. So let's think what this means. 3.6, at 3.6 we were small, at 3.7 we were big, and at 3.65 halfway between we were too big. So the answer must be closer to 3.6. So the answer to 1 decimal place is actually 3.6. Question 9. The diagram shows a triangular prism. What is the volume of the prism? Well, in the start of our formula booklet, it tells us that the volume of any prism, it says, is the cross-section area of the front, so the area of the front times the depth. Okay, so here let's work out the area of the triangle first. So the area of the triangle is equal to, the area of a triangle is base times height, 10 times 2, and then halved, so you would get 10 centimeters squared. So therefore the volume is the area of 10 times how far back it is 3.5, so the volume is 10 multiplied by 3.5, which is simply 35, and the unit must be centimetres cubed. So the answer is 35 centimetres cubed. The prism is made of wood. The density of wood is 0.4 grams per centimetre cubed. Calculate the mass of the prism. Well, we should know that density is given by the formula mass divided by volume. So if you want to work out the mass in particular, the mass must be the density times the volume, rearranging this equation. So the mass in this case must be the density, which they've given us in grams per centimetre cubed, is 0.4 multiplied by our volume, which we've got in the top part, which is 35. So you multiply these together and you get an answer of 14, and the unit is grams. So 14 grams. If you couldn't remember the density is mass times volume, just have a look at this. That's the density, and the units given are grams per. Per means divided by centimetres cubed. Now grams is a measure of mass and centimetres cubed is a measure of volume, so you could get the formula by looking at the units if you've forgotten. Question 10. A, B and C are right angled triangles. A and B are similar. So let's just point A and B, this one and this one are similar. Now one shape, two shapes are similar if one is an enlargement of the other. So that is, if there is a scale factor that you can multiply the smaller one by to get the sides of the bigger one. So let's look at A and B. It asks you to work out the length of W. Okay? Well, let's think. How would I get from B to A? Or vice versa. Actually, let's go from A to B. If these sides are similar, then how would I get from A to B, the smaller one? Well, the ratio of the sides is 12 divided by 30, which is 2/5. So that means if I multiply this one by 2/5, I get this one. Let's just try it. 30 times 2/5 would equal 12. So how do I get this one here? Well, I simply do 12.5, this distance, multiplied by 2/5. And I get 5. So W is 5 centimetres. Show that triangles A and C are not similar. Show that triangles A and C are not similar. They're not similar if the ratio of their sides is not the same. So on the one hand, all you've got to do is work out 30 divided by 4.5, which is 6 2/3. That was that side divided by that side. And the other equivalent sides would be 12.5 divided by 2, which would give me 6.25. Because they're not the same, there is no common scale factor linking the sides. They are not similar. Question 11. The diagram shows a circle and the diameter is PQ. There's the diameter. Work out the size of W. Well, you should know that any triangle bound inside, bound along the sides of a circle, where one of the sides is a diameter, has a right angle in it, and the right angle must be here. So W must be 180 subtract 90 subtract 67, because angles in a triangle add up to 180. So W is 180 subtract 90 subtract 67, which would give me the answer of 23 degrees. ABCD is a cyclic quadrilateral. Work out the values of x and y. Now, a cyclic quadrilateral simply means that the quadrilateral has 4 straight sides and each of the vertices are attached to the circumference of a circle. The circle theorem you should know in regards to this is that opposite angles in a cyclic quadrilateral add to 180? So, on the one hand, x plus y, they're opposite, they must add to 180. And on the other hand, these two must add up to 180. So I'm going to write that 2x plus 15 plus y minus 45, they must also add to 180. Well, I'm just going to tidy this up. 15 add minus 45 is the same as 15 take away 45. So we're going to have a 2x here and a y here. 15 take away 45 is minus 30, and that's going to give me 180. Just to tidy it up one step further, I'll add 30 to both sides to get rid of this number. So I'm going to have 2x plus y is equal to 210. So here are my two equations. X plus y is 180. They're simultaneous equations we're going to try and solve. And 2x plus y is equal to 210. Equation 2. The number in front of the y, the coefficient of the y in both cases is 1. So I can straight away take equation 2 and subtract equation 1. 2x take away x is 1x, y take away y is 0, 210 take away 180 is 30. And substituting 30 back into equation 1, I get y must be 150. So our answers are 30 and 150. Question 12. The diagram shows a square. The diagram has one line of symmetry. So that wasn't in it beforehand. Clearly, for this to have one line of symmetry, this line of symmetry must be this diagonal here, which tells us that this area and this area must be the same, and this shaded plus this shaded are the same as each other. It wants us to work out the area of the shaded part. Just as a bit of logic to start with, the area of the shaded, a way of working out would be work out the area of the whole square and subtract that angle and subtract that angle. Triangle and that triangle. And because they're both the same, subtract 2 lots of the triangle. Okay, so that's what we're going to try and do. Let's draw this triangle out for ourselves here. We've got a triangle here. Now, this side is 90, so this side is 90. The angle at the top here is 70, and we know that this height here is 7.3, equivalent to this. Now, we want to know this distance here. We want to know this distance here because that could help us work out the distance of the area of the square. So this distance here, we're going to call it in relation to the angle, is the opposite. We've got the adjacent. What trigonomic formula relates the angle, the opposite and the adjacent? Well, tan does. You know that tan 70 must be opposite, I'm going to call that OP not to confuse it with 0, opposite over 7.3. So rearranging this equation, the opposite must be equal to 7.3 times tan 70. So you can work that out on your calculator, making sure your calculator is in degrees mode, and I get 20.1 centimeters roughly. So the area of the square is 20.1 times 20.1. If you keep it in the memory of your calculator and square that more accurately, you get the answer 402.3 centimeters squared. Now, what's the area of one of the triangles? Well, the area of a triangle is half the base times the height. So the area of one of the triangles is half the base, which we said was 20.1, times the height, which is 7.3, the perpendicular height that is, and you get the answer for that, about 73.4 centimeters squared. Remember, you want two of these. So the shaded must be the area of the whole square, which is 402.3, subtract 2 times 73.4, and you get the answer approximately 255 centimeters squared. So get the answer 255 centimeters squared for the shaded area, this here. Question 13. Here is a quadratic graph. Show that the graph is given by that formula. Well, you know that the point 1 and the point 3 are roots. So you know that the formula must be somehow given by the fact, if 1 is a root, then x minus 1 is one of the factors, and if 3 is a root, then x minus 3 is one of the other factors. So that is our attempt at what this graph is. Let's times it out. I get x squared minus x minus 3x plus 3. So I get x squared minus 4x plus 3 as required. Now we should just check it gives us this point here. When x is 0, y is indeed 3. So the way you work this one out is knowing that the roots were 1 and 3, the factors must be x minus 1 and x minus 3. Timesing those factors out gives you the quadratic equation you're looking for. Okay, 13b is quite a tricky question to be honest here. Let's have a go at it. It wants you to solve the equation x squared minus 3x plus 1 is equal to 0 by using the previous graph you had on the previous page, which was x squared minus 4x plus 3. You had that graph. Now, let's try and break this up into looking like what we had on the previous page. We have an x squared. Let's break this up into minus 4x but plus an x, because I want this minus 4x, so it looks like that. So we have to break this up into minus 4 plus 1, and we want to break the 1 up so it looks like a 3. So we'd have to have plus 3. You'd have to have 3, and then you'd have to take away 2 to get 0. So just to show these two are equivalent, you've got an x squared here. The minus 3x is minus 4x plus an x, so these two are equivalent. And then the 1 is 3 minus 2. Now we can break this up into the equation here. We've got an x squared. Let's take the 4x and let's take the plus 3. That's starting to look like the equation we had on the other side of the page. And we've got left over a plus x and a minus 2. And all of those are equal to 0. So bringing the x minus 2 over, or subtracting x minus 2 from both sides, so you can think of it in two steps, subtracting x and then adding a 2 in fact, we would get x squared minus 4x plus 3 is equal to 2 minus x. So we've got the graph of this on the previous page. If we drew the graph of 2 minus x, where these two intersect would be the solutions to this equation. So going back, let's draw the graph of y equals 2 minus x. That is a gradient of minus 1 and a y-intercept of 2. So let's go back here. A y-intercept of 2 crosses here. As you go across 1, you go down 1. You go across 1, you go down 1, etc. Okay, so if I drew that in, it would look something like that. The line y equals 2 minus x. So the solutions to the equation are this here and this here. And looking at it approximately, you get approximately x is 2.5 and y is equal to, what would that be here? Can't quite make that out, but the other one you'd get x is approximately equal to 0.3. X is approximately equal to 0.3. In fact, they only obviously want the x values. So the x values I got are about 0.3 and 2.5. So x is 0.3 and x is 2.5. Just to recap, that's by drawing the graph y equals 2 minus x and see where it intersects with our graph x squared minus 4x plus 3 gives us x is about 2.5 and x is about 0.3 as our solutions. ABC is a triangular plot of land. Show that angle BAC, i.e. B to A to C, this angle here is 33.3. So this is angle BAC. Let's label up our triangle here. Before we start, just notice this doesn't look like a right angle triangle. So normal right angle triangle trigonometry or Pythagoras or stuff like that doesn't apply here. We're thinking cosine rule or sine rule. So opposite big angle A is little side A. Opposite big angle B is little side B, and opposite big angle C is little side C. Using our formula sheet, it tells us the cosine rule. It tells us that the cosine rule is given by a squared is equal to b squared plus c squared, that's the sides, minus 2bc cos A. So that's saying this side squared plus this side squared, this side squared equals this side squared plus this side squared minus 2 times this times cos of the angle at A. Now, we want to show that the angle at A is 33.3, so we want to actually work out cos of A. Rearranging this formula, it's not given in the formula booklet this, you need to be able to rearrange this. Cos A must be b squared plus c squared minus a squared all over 2bc. That is that equation just rearranged, making cos A the subject of the formula. Okay, well, let's use that to work out what cos A is. Cos A must therefore be b squared is 200 squared plus 160 squared minus 110 squared, all divided by 2 times b is 200 times c is 160. So working this out on your calculator, you get a fraction when you do it in my calculator of 107 over 128, and that's cos of the angle A. So the angle A must be the inverse cos of 107 over 128, making sure your calculator is in degrees mode, and you should get the answer 33.3 as required. So angle BAC, the angle at A, is 33.3 degrees. 14b tells you the value of this land is £300,000 per acre, and an acre is 405 meters squared. Calculate the value of the plot. The value of this land is £300,000 per acre. 1 acre is 4,050 meters squared. Calculate the value of the plot ABC. So the first thing we need to be able to work out is the area of ABC. Well, you know from your formula booklet as well that the area of any triangle is a half AB sine of the angle in between. So looking back at our picture here, we know this angle here, so using these two as A and B in this case, we would get the area is equal to a half times 160 times 200 times sine of the angle in between, which we said was 33.3 degrees. Working that out, we get 8,784 meters squared, and you want to know how many hectares that is. Well, how many hectares must be 8,784 divided by 4,050, is approximately 2.2 hectares. So the value of this land, the value of the plot, must be £300,000 times the 2.2, and I get as an answer for that £693,。Okay, the diagram shows the sector of a circle with centre O. The radius of the circle is 30 centimetres, so this radius here is 30, and that is a radius of 30 centimetres as well. Work out the arc length AB. What they're asking for you here, be very careful, is this arc length, AB. Okay, well, how would we work it out? Well, how many degrees is left over inside this circle? There are 300. Now, we know that the distance around a whole circle is 2 pi r times the radius. So the distance around a portion of it, a portion where you've only got 300 degrees, must be 300 out of 360 times 2 pi r. So, if we want to work out this distance, we would do the fraction of the circle we've got, which is 300 degrees divided by 360, and we would multiply it by 2 times pi times the radius, which we know is 30. Okay, working that all out there, 300 divided by 360 times 2 times 30. And it says leave your answer in terms of pi, so leave the pi in it. You get, when you do this, 50 pi. And that is the arc length AB, 50 pi. 15b says that the sector in part A, the sector we had in part A, if you remember, looks something like this, where that was 300 degrees, this was 30. Okay, it is joined together to make this cone. Work out the volume of this cone. Well, looking at your formula booklet, the formula booklet tells you that the volume of any cone is equal to 1/3 pi r squared times the height. So imagine putting these two things together. The 30 will end up being this slanted height here. 30 will end up being there, and the arc length AB that we worked out previously, this distance here, which we said is 50 pi, is going to be the diameter, the circumference of the circle at the bottom. So this whole circumference here in the bottom will have a value of 50 pi. Those are the two things we know currently at the moment. What we need to work out is the radius of this circle, and we need to work out the height of this cone. Okay, so let's start off by trying to work out the radius of this circle. If we know that in general a circle has a circumference of 2 pi r, and we know that this value is equal to 50 pi, r by default must be 25. Solving for r here, r has to be 25 to make these two the same. So we know that r is equal to 25 centimetres. Now we can work out h, because we've got a right angled triangle. We've got a right angled triangle here with hypotenuse 30, base 25, and unknown perpendicular height h. So to get h squared would be 30 squared take away 25 squared. So h squared would be 275. So h would be the square root of 275, which we're just going to write now as 5 root 11. That's what my calculator tells me. So now let's use the formula in the formula booklet. Volume is 1/3 pi r squared h. The volume of this thing must be 1/3 times pi times r squared, which is 25 squared, and then times h, which is 5 root 11. So and we get an answer when we do that of 10854 centimeters cubed. Question 16. It tells us that the perimeter of a rectangle, let's draw this rectangle out here, the perimeter of a rectangle is 4a, and the area is given by a squared minus 16b squared. Now, looking at this, it looks hard to get started. It will ask you to work out expressions for the length and the width. The area is given by an expression which is the difference of two squares, and it factorizes as follows: a plus 4b, a minus 4b. So that tells us straight away what the sides are. The longer side is a plus 4b, this side must be a plus 4b, and the shorter sides must be a minus 4b and a minus 4b. Now, does it work for the perimeter? If you add these up, they do add to 4a, because that 4b, that minus 4b cancels with that 4b, and the same here. So the length is a plus 4b, and the width is a minus 4b. Okay, which one of these statements is correct? Give a reason for your answer. Is statement A, is A equal to 4b, is A less than 4b, or is A bigger than 4b? Well, for the width to have any value, A must be bigger than 4b. So statement 3, and you could write if A minus 4b is bigger than 0, then i.e. the side must have width, then A is bigger than 4b, must be our answer. Thank you for listening to this video. I hope it helps you in your revision for Unit 3.